Hello everybody, I am Micah Christenson, the setter for Zenit-Kazan, and today I will be trying my best to give you a little masterclass on setting. No secrets though. So I think the main job of a setter is that they are basically, like we like to say in the United States, they're like the quarterback of the team, which is the person that touches the ball every play, ideally, if the reception is there where we can touch the ball every play. So you have to be very prepared mentally. Physically also, I think there are two sides to setting. There's the mental side and the physical side. So there's technical on your physical side, and so you have to be prepared technically to be able to give a good ball, give a hittable ball, the ball that is that gives the spiker the option to spike in every direction, to be able to tip if they want to do everything that they want to, and ideally it's putting them in the best position to make the point. That would be most ideal is no block, then it goes to 1 block and 2 blocks and 3 blocks. But I think before you try to make the blockers miss or fool the blockers, it's more important to give your hitter the best possible ball to then make a point. Because at the end of the day, the setter's job is not to make the point, it's to give the ball to the spiker to make the best possible decision that we can to make the point. And then you go to the mental side of it. The setter's job, I think, is it's really important to study the opposing team, study your opponent, study also your own team, understand what your strengths are, both as a team and as you as a setter individually. So you know your strengths, you know your weaknesses, you know your opponent's strengths, you know your opponent's weaknesses, and then trying to mix those two things together to then deliver technically the best ball that you can to your hitters, whether it be in 4, first tempo, pipe, back, or even a little tip. All right, so speaking about mistakes, common mistakes that setters make, first and foremost, before we even get on the court, I think not being prepared as a setter is the biggest mistake that you can make. And by not being prepared, I mean mentally, understanding your own team, yourself, your opponent. I think there's a lot more responsibility for a setter to be prepared than anybody else on the team because we have a lot of responsibility to control the game. We make a lot of the decisions on where the ball is going, who's spiking. And so the biggest mistake I think as a setter you can make is to not be prepared mentally. Now, physically, technically, there's a lot. I mean, I make a lot of mistakes as a setter still, a lot. And something I'm constantly working on is just consistency of where I'm touching the ball, how I'm attacking the ball. Something that I'm working on now is consistently attacking the ball when I'm setting it and giving it energy. I think a lot of setters, especially at younger ages, and even now I've been doing this even a little bit this season where I'm not happy about and I'm working on, is when you try to really be precise and accurate with the ball, you kind of almost like guide it. You try to really give it a soft touch to make it go into that target that you want, and it ends up being worse, at least in my experience. Volleyball is a game of mistakes. You're never going to be perfect in volleyball, especially as a setter. It's such a hard skill to do. And so if you think of the target as this big target here, if you treat this as where the ball will go when you're setting to the antenna, and sometimes the ball's here, sometimes the ball's here, sometimes the ball's here, sometimes the ball's perfectly right in the middle. The goal, I think, of a setter is to make this error circle as small as it can be. It's not going to be perfect in the middle every single time, but if I miss this much, or this much, or this much, then that's when your hitters can really start to trust where that ball's coming, because, oops, I made a mistake. It was, 2-3 centimeters too high. I'm going to bring that down a little bit. But they can still hit it, and they can still do a lot with that ball. I think that once you kind of get that grouping, we call it a grouping, it's like when you're shooting at targets. If your grouping is large, that means you're not very consistent. But if your grouping is right next to the bullseye, the target, then you made a few mistakes, but they were so small and they're still really good shots and they're still really good sets. The goal of a setter, in my opinion, or one of the goals, is to keep your error group as small as you can be. So when I make a mistake, I'm hoping that the mistake is, 2-3 centimeters. It's still a mistake on my part, but the hitter they're still so good that they're good enough to be able to move the ball around and still be able to do a lot with the mistake that I made. And I think another mistake that younger players tend to make is, I'll do it without the ball, is when this is a perfect spot, this is perfect pass, and I don't have to run, I have my hands, I'm boom, boom. But when I'm running to a ball that's here, a lot of players, and I don't like this, and it's something that I would definitely advise young players to not do, is don't run with your hands up to the ball to go get it. When you're running like this, you're just not athletic. You're more rigid, you're not dynamic. If the ball's there, be athletic, use your spot, and then when it's time to go, get in your spot. I call it preset. This is where you preset your wrists and your hands, and you go up with your good motion, same spot, you can move it around, do that. But the moment you start to go like this and you're seeing the ball, you're just slower with your feet, you're slower with your body, you're not really getting to the ball, you end up doing this, you end up being late. As opposed to when you stay athletic, you're moving, you're able to move to the ball, be more fluid, more dynamic with your body anywhere on the court, and then when it's time to set, you get into your spot, your preset, and you go. Be athletic, setters. Do our best to be athletic. I like to think of it this way. Well, there's a lot of different philosophies and theories and ways that you can decide on which person to set. You can decide on the matchup, our outside hitter against their opposite or their setter. Do I like that matchup? Do I think that our hitter has a big advantage over that blocker? There's that idea. Where I'm playing completely against their block. It doesn't really matter about our hitters. It matters on what I think their block is going to do, so I can completely try to do what they are not going to do or what I believe they're not going to do. This is the beauty of setting. This is my favorite part of setting, is playing the game within the game. I kind of call it dancing a little bit. You're always, one person takes a step and then the other person responds. And so it's me playing against their block. And, sometimes I don't care if you know where it's going, you can't stop Dmitry Volkov. Go ahead, you can have 3 blocks. Try and stop him, Max Mikhailov, all of our guys. Good luck. Or I'm gonna try to have the least amount of blocks possible, hopefully. And sometimes that comes with studying their block a ton, what their players like to do, what they don't like to do, what they're uncomfortable doing, and how they make adjustments. I'm kind of categorizing a little bit. There's middle blockers that make a lot of adjustments. There's middle blockers that don't make a lot of adjustments. And so you have to study this as well to understand, okay, I just did that again. That means probably they're gonna go and block the thing that I just did 2 times in a row. But it depends on the type of middle blocker they are, if they're really thinking through it or if they just do the same thing over and over again. And then everything is determined by the reception, the pass. So I like to think of it as a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, to where plan A is a perfect reception on the net. There's even a plan B to where it's 3 meters off of the net, to where maybe those decisions changed based on what their blockers do and how fast the ball is coming out of my hands from a perfect pass to call it medium pass, like a znak reception. And then there's a high ball. And if the ball is all the way off the net, 8, 7, 8, 9 meters, which place am I more comfortable setting with the matchups that they have and how they spike high balls, and what their strengths are, what our hitters' strengths are, and what the blocker's weaknesses can be. And then there's maybe plan D of if the ball is pushed to zone 2, our zone 2, and what those decisions can turn to, and if it's passed to position 4, and what those decisions can change into as well. So, like I was saying before, I think most of setting is mental. It is a very cerebral position. To be able to process this information really quickly is really, really important based on the reception that you get, because you never know what kind of reception you're going to get. And that is where I think setters can get into trouble and can also, separate themselves from being an average setter to a good setter, or a good setter to a great setter, is how fast you can process information and make a decision that is the best decision for your team and for your spikers. A lot of that comes with practice and training, and also just watching a lot of volleyball. What is the difference between Mi-Kazan and volleyball? Volleyball, for those who don't know, this is the ball that we're playing in the Russian Championship for last season and this season, so 2 seasons. Mi-Kazan is the international ball that we're playing maybe FIVB tournaments with. And I would say there's some differences, definitely. I think this Mi-Kazan is a little bit more sticky and responsive. The volleyball is a little bit more slippery. But it's not a problem that it's slippery. It's not slippery. It's not too slippery. It's just different in how it touches and how it touches your hands. I would consider the Mi-Kazan a little bit more consistent, let's say, in how it spins and how it bounces and how it flies. Sometimes my friend here, off of a very high reception or off of a high defense, it'll start coming down and it'll start moving away, in a way that I didn't expect it to, or start to float a little bit on the way down. And so it challenges me to have a consistent, strong hands to where the ball could move last second into a little bit more on this hand or on this hand, because it's floating on the way down. I haven't had that as much with the Mi-Kazan ball, but so I am learning different new setting techniques, and it's volleyball. It's fun. I would love to set. I'll set a coconut if I have to. So that's the fun and the challenge of volleyball, is that it's very difficult, and I love the challenges. So in regards to where you want to touch the ball and how you want to actually set the ball, I am a big believer in the idea or concept that there's a global idea as a setter, and there's a few jobs that we need to do well, which is set the ball accurately and precisely to the target, and you need to do your best to take it in a similar position every single time. And a lot of different setters do this differently at a very high level. But my particular way to touch the ball, I like to touch it a little bit right here above my forehead. I don't like my hands to be too far out like this. I want to kind of try to touch all of my fingers on the ball. Sometimes it doesn't work like that, but most of the time I want to get all 10 fingers on the ball. And sometimes I don't want to be exactly center. This is something new for me that I've been working on in the last 5 years, is I want to be a tiny bit on my right side. And this works for me. It doesn't necessarily work for everybody else, but I think it gives me more consistency and more precision. I like to take it here. I feel strong in this position. Some setters take it here and do a very good job of going forward and going back. Some setters do a good job of keeping their arms out and being able to go like this and like that. I think in general there's a lot of ways to hold the ball, as long as you get the job done, which is setting an accurate and a precise ball, having it consistently come out of your hands the same way, so your spikers can expect the same ball every single time. I think that's very important as a setter. So the back set, I think it's probably, you could consider it the most difficult just because you're doing something, you're setting to a target that you don't see, right? I'm trusting my opposite to be on the same tempo, the same timing of approach every single time. And I am trying to deliver the ball the same trajectory, the same height finishing, and the same speed every single time. And a lot of times you can't see what it looked like, especially if it's fast, right? So the more you set and the longer you play volleyball, the more you can feel if it was a good set or a bad set. But if I'm setting forward, I can see immediately, okay, that was too low, or that was too high, or maybe it needs to be faster. A back set, you need to be able to feel, the more you play, the better you feel it. So I like to take it a little bit here, a little bit on my right eye. A lot of people get the job done in a lot of different ways. Some guys set right over their head. They've got great backs. I don't have the lower back to be able to break my back like that. I would probably, my career would be finished 5 years ago. And some guys will do this and fling it back. I know a handful of guys that played at the highest level doing that. Grankin was one of those that was really good at doing it that way and keeping his elbows out a little bit. I like to be here, and I like to be on my right eye, and I like to finish a little bit to the right. That allows me to get some more power on the ball, a little bit more tempo, and as I get closer back, I don't have to necessarily finish that way. I can keep it here, but as I'm moving forward, I don't have to do this and break my back backwards. I like to be able to have it on the right side to where I can go this way and throw it far and be able to control the tempo and not just be some high ball, but rather keep it fast, keep the trajectory similar, and hopefully help out my opposite because it's a longer ball, and the faster the ball is to that target, the harder it is for their middle blocker to arrive. And so also for the back set, as we come off of the net, my style and how I was taught is to be able to always square your body up to position 4. So you're facing there. If you're gonna set back, you're setting it almost off of your right shoulder to the antenna. And so that also is here. I'm a little bit on my right shoulder there. As you get here, it's a little bit harder. This is probably one of the hardest sets in volleyball, is to be able to square to here and fling it all the way there. I think it's my style, and what I would like to do is to be able to square this way. Some guys, as they come off the net, they almost turn and set the whole time. And sometimes you have to do that because it's an emergency play and you're not going to be able to get there as fast. But I think if you have time, I would like to always be able to square this way, so where I can play fast, I can play consistent there, and then it can look like I'm just going that way. It wasn't a good set there, but that wasn't a set. So it's kind of going that way over your right shoulder anyway. So you still have that alley to play fast and play hopefully consistent. This one's a little bit, I can't tell you all of my secrets because I'm still playing. I don't want any blockers to get any advantage. But speaking about like when it's time to attack, when I can actually tip the ball over or spike. Because I'm lucky, I throw naturally left-handed. I believe that I was born left-handed, and my grandmother forced me to do a lot of things right-handed. Not forced me, taught me to do things right-handed, because we live in a right-hander's world and we all know it. When it's time to dump, in America, in English, we call it dumping the ball as a setter dump. Anytime you have a tight pass where you're up close to the net, if their block is just ready to go and go to block our opposite, then you can see that you've got options there. You can also ask your coaches or teammates, did they jump with me on the last one, especially when it's really high and I have to go get it, did they jump with me? If they didn't, next time I'll be able to know that they're there. I think I've developed some vision over the years of playing volleyball where I'm able to see where they are, and even if they jump with me, I'm able to see where their hands are and sometimes go under their hands. I know a lot of setters that do this, is that when the ball is moving along the net, they're able to do it because now this middle blocker isn't used to having to deal with me possibly attacking. It's normally their position 4 blocker that's worried about me attacking, that's jumping with me. And so as I move forward, now the responsibility turns into their middle blockers responsibility to try to block me. And now that middle blocker also has to deal with our middle blocker. And so it's just two people against one. And if you choose right, you can also get that. There's a whole lot that goes into a setter attacking the ball. I think a lot of it is studying, and then a lot of setters do this, and not just myself. I've actually done this once in my career that I remember, and it was this season. Don't spike after the libero takes the ball with his hands inside of 3 meters. I've done that for the first time in my career. I'm very embarrassed about it because my coach is now telling the libero to have to say no, don't spike the ball when it's my responsibility, because that's illegal, because the libero can't set inside of 3 meters. So also be aware of that as a setter. But then nobody knew, except for the referee. Nobody knew. So warming up before a game, and what should we pay attention to? What should we do in a warm-up? Honestly, I think you should be treating trainings very much like games as well. I think it's very important that you're training with the same intensity that you are playing with at the games, maybe even harder. I don't know who initially said it, but Coach Girai, my new coach for the national team, was practices were so hard, trainings were so hard that the game was easy. So I think that the way that you're warming up for the game should be the same way you're warming up for trainings. Obviously you have to do it in a different way because there are different protocols before the game. So you find your rhythm, you find your routine in which, I like to have a certain routine set in a certain place first and then set in a certain place second, and kind of do that checklist. It's not that I have to do it, but I'd prefer to do it. If things change, it's not a problem, because in trainings, oftentimes things are changing all the time, and we try to be able to respond to different situations. It's not a superstition that you need to do, but it's something that can get you in a little bit of the mindset ready to play. Okay, so some exercises that I would recommend. Obviously, we're very blessed to play on a volleyball court every day. A lot of people and a lot of kids, I know when I was growing up, I didn't have a volleyball court every day that I could come train on. So if you have a volleyball court and you have a coach or a friend that can toss you balls, and you're able to set in all of these situations from here, moving along this way, moving along the net, and being able to, set 10 balls, perfect. Doesn't have to be 10 in a row, 10 perfect. Oop, missed that one, that doesn't count. Boom, 10. Back, move forward now. 10 here, 10 back, perfect. I like to challenge yourself with games, with competition. I'm a big proponent of competing, and competing with yourself as well. That is if you have a court to play on. That's another thing that a lot of people don't have. And so what I would like to encourage people to do is at home, at the park, if you're able to go outside in your backyard, you find a target. It doesn't have to be a volleyball. It can be this K in Kazan. And you toss it to yourself, and you try to set it, and you try to hit it. And then you try to set it fast, and try to hit it. I missed, so that doesn't count. You set it fast, and then you change the trajectory, and I said the A, right? I said the A. And then you make a basket in the thing too. So you pick something, you say, I think that cooler I want to hit, but I want to hit it on the top of it. So I want to it's going to be really hard. I mean, it's going to be really easy. And that's something that you can do. You can pick a target and just fire it. And you can also, change your toss. You change the height in which you're setting it. So if I'm aiming for something here, boom, a low toss, and then a really high one, and see if I can do the same thing here. And so that's going to make it harder. Don't pick any targets in the kitchen. Don't pick your television, please. Hopefully it'll be outside of your house to where, and if you're not able to go outside of your house, then pick something that you're not gonna get in trouble with your parents. But I think that is it's just great to touch the ball. The more you can touch the ball, the more comfortable you'll be, the more feeling you'll have into which it's going to be a clean ball that comes out, or this is a mistake that I'll do. I'll actually put my right hand way faster than my left hand and it comes out that way. And so you start to learn what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, touch your weaknesses maybe a little bit more, work on your weaknesses a little bit more, but don't forget about your strengths. Really strengthen those, perfect those, master them. And you're gonna have a lot of different ways to be successful on the volleyball court. Guys, thank you for attending my small masterclass. I think I can talk about setting for days. And I'm sure a lot of us setters can talk about setting in different ways. I hope you enjoyed this little snippet into what setting is to me. I would encourage you to watch a lot of different high-level setters. There are so many out there that are amazing world-class setters. Take little things from this person and that person, and I like what this person does, and make it into your own game. Make sure you get the job done. You do all of those fundamental things that setters must do to be able to give a good ball, a hittable ball, make it consistent, be precise, trying to be as similar as it can on every set that you're doing, front or back. Find your own creative game, because there's a lot of different ways to get the job done, and I hope you enjoyed my version of trying to get the job done in the best possible way as a setter.